Good evening, everyone. Back with another podcast with Malone 10K Podcast. I'm here with Steve Hargrave.
That's right.
Thank goodness. How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I want to ask you something. What was your biggest dream as a kid?
My biggest dream as a kid?
Yeah.
Oh God. I really wanted to be a superhero. I don't know if it gets much bigger than that.
You're anything bigger than that, man.
No, I wanted to be like Superman. Like I wanted to be like the superhero. I was a pretty dumb kid. So
no, it's good to be a super. At least you're striving to be a good person and trying to help the world.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of afternoons on my trampoline pretending that I was beating people. I don't know what about the trampoline made me think I was in a fight. I was young and I'd never been in a fight. Mm. But I would just jump and like do spin kicks and stuff. I don't know. I was pretty imaginative.
Where you landed them?
Oh, yeah. No, I was in gymnastics from a young, I know it didn't look like it, but from a young age, it's where my sister and I both started in gymnastics before moving on to other sports. So, yeah, I was doing flips at a pretty young age, and I thought I was a ninja or like James Bond or something. I don't know.
Did you at least dress up as James Bond?
No. I wasn't smart enough to cosplay. It was all in my head.
So you have a very vivid imagination.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, from a very young age. Very vivid imagination. Like I imagined I had friends, that I was loved. What? No.
It's not funny, but it's like I didn't. You caught me off guard. It's not funny, but it's like personally, the way your personality, I figured you have a whole lot of friends.
Yeah, it's funny. Not so much when I was younger. I was very precocious. Like most moms would tuck their kids in and be like, okay, what'd you learn today? And I'd be like, hey, what about politics? What does Republican mean? What does Democrat mean? Like I was that kind of kid asking all these weird adult questions.
Did you have a good childhood?
Yeah. My dad was a pastor. My mom was a teacher. I had a great childhood. I was just other 8 and 9 year olds didn't get my sense of humor.
Oh.
So I kind of stood out. My dad was a pastor, so we grew up on a poorer side of town, so like I was very much the minority, and so like that's my upbringing. I grew up with being like one of the 10% white kids in my school, and which was fine. It was just I grew up different than most kids in suburban America, right? So we were in North Dallas, and my dad had a church that was on that side of town, and the church owned the house we lived in. So it's like that's what dictated where we went to school, which was was fine, but. Brian Hardy, ladies and gentlemen.
How you doing, buddy?
One of our performers just walked in.
Oh yeah, man. How's it looking?
Can Katie Kirk see me on this thing?
Oh no, I'm gonna say it's looking at us so mad. You want to get in a shot?
So anyway, it was like my sense of humor, like where I came from and then where I was very different. It was a very disparate experience from my fellow junior hires or middle schoolers or whatever. I guess even before that, like 8 and 9 would be what, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. So yeah, it was weird.
Oh no, you're fine, man. Oh, I apologize for laughing, man. It wasn't funny. You just called me out. I didn't know
it was a joke. It was supposed to be funny. It's okay to laugh.
I didn't know you was when you got serious. I said, oh, I wasn't ready mentally for something serious. I was like, oh no. I didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah, we can go deep. You want to get into the psyche of a comedian? It's not a fun place.
Oh no, I'm Well, I guess the best thing is to ask you is, what got you into comedy?
That's a very
lack of looks.
Very basic story.
Don't do them like that, man.
Sorry, we got people coming. Hey. She's a little young to be carrying whiskey.
She bold with it.
Speaking of comics, their kids. 5-year-olds walking in with bottles of whiskey.
Oh yeah.
No, what got me into comedy? What got me into comedy proper was on my 30th birthday. My best friend and my sister got me an improv comedy class for my birthday because we went to an improv show in Dallas and I was trying to be fun. I was like, oh, I can do that. I didn't think I could. Like I loved watching comedy growing up. Like loved it. I grew up in the era where Showtime and HBO were pay-per-view cable. And if you buy the channel, there'd be tons of comedy specials. I mean, back when, Roseanne Barr and Tim Allen and Jerry Seinfeld were still doing specials. They didn't have TV shows yet. They were still doing specials. And George Carlin was just coming out. Richard Pryor they were coming to the end of their careers. And, that was me as a 6 and 7, 8 and 9-year-old getting exposed to those comics because I stayed up late watching Showtime while my parents were asleep. And then at 30, I actually started performing. And I don't know, I just took to it pretty quick, I guess.
I want to ask you, who was your favorite comedian?
Oof. Stand up or like movie actor? I mean, there's a difference.
Well, who influenced you the most to be a comedian?
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't have to know, man. Just say what's on your mind.
I've never thought about my influences because for me, comedy wasn't like, oh, that person inspired me to perform, or I feel like I performed like that person. Because improv wasn't a thing. I mean, Whose Line Was It Anyway was big. So, like, those guys were very inspirational. You know, Ryan Stiles and Colin Mockery and Wayne Brady and those guys on that show were definitely inspirational. But, I mean, my comedy sensibilities, I think, you know, they go back to, like I said, those early stand-ups. I mean, even Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, Raw and Delirious. And,
I love
like, it's
Raw.
just from a different, it's all those different influences. I have people I like more now. But as far as like an original influence, I don't think I could point to one person. I mean, I'm almost more influenced by comedic TV shows and movies. You know, I love the delivery of even a John Ritter. I don't know. There's a very, very funny movie called Noises Off. It's a French farce. It's a play they turned into a movie with John Ritter from Three's Company and 8 Simple Rules. He died. Anyway, I thought he was a great comedic actor, even though Three's Company is super cheesy. Movies like that, the delivery of the movies like that, the slapstick, but also the witty comedies, and I think that probably influenced me more than anything.
There's an art to it.
Yeah. There's a cadence to it, so it's like a pattern.
Right.
You know, like for instance, if you got a job tomorrow at Burger King, right, which I'm sure would be a huge promotion.
Right on.
And they said you're on the drive-through window, would they have to teach you what the interaction sounds like?
Oh no, it just be common sense.
Right. You the first person that pulled in, you'd be like,
"Hello, welcome to Burger King.
How may I take your order? We have a special, whatever." Right.
Right.
Comedy was the same way for me. I just started noticing the patterns and the rhythms, the left turns, the rule of three, the stuff that I found out later had terms for it that people had actually studied and written books about. That I was like noticing those patterns and kind of adapting them to my own life. You know, the pregnant pause and the over delivery, all those, the act out, all those different comedy terms that insiders know. I was noticing those patterns pretty early and using them to get laughs around the lunch table or at my house, whatever. So.
Oh no, I mean, it's beautiful. But I feel like comedy is a very hard thing to get into. I feel like there's so many people. But there was a question I was going to ask you later on. I kind of want to ask you now since we're on the topic. What's the difference between someone that just tells jokes and a stand-up comedian?
Very little difference. I mean, a good stand-up comedian tells jokes. There are some stand-up comedians like George Carlin, but I think George Carlin, those were jokes. He was just really, really good at writing them. That are more ranters. They'll go up there and rant, and then the jokes kind of come. There's different styles, different types of comics. I mean, most people know there's insult comics, one-liner comics. There's joke tellers for sure that are deliberately telling things that you know are setups. And then they like Anthony Jeselnik is a great setup joke writer. He tells a setup, there's a punchline, there's an act out. It's like all of it's right there. And then there's people like Bill Burr who's actually mad about something and he just decides to poke fun at it. Those are the court jesters of our day, taking the king or whoever and making fun of it when nobody else can.
Right.
That's those guys. And like I said, there's insult comics. I mean, the great Don Rickles, Jeff Ross now. There's one-line comics who are, like Mitch Hedberg and Stephen Wright, those guys. There's great sketch comics that aren't great stand-up. They're good stand-ups, but they're better sketch comics like the SNL guys. It's just, there's not a difference. I mean, anybody can tell a joke, right? If you memorize the right words. But there's something about the delivery. And then with performing, with a stand-up, I think maybe the best answer to your question is, the biggest difference is someone who knows how to be on stage. Right. Knows how to handle an audience, knows how to bring an audience in. I have a friend of mine who coined it this way. He said, every time you step on stage, there is a thin, thin veil of professionalism between you and the audience. Right? They assume that because you have the mic and you're on the stage that you're the professional.
Correct.
And you better not be the one to break that veil. Right? Let them assume you're not a professional if your act sucks or they don't like you or whatever. But don't get up there and pretend you're one of them or be like, oh man, I forgot the punchline. Or like be a professional. And people who are really good at that can fake it. Or if they're really good at that, they're just really good at that. Right? But I think that's probably the biggest difference in someone who's telling a joke at their family reunion and a stand-up.
I see what
right?
you mean.
Everybody who thinks they're funny, you may be funny. It doesn't make you a stand-up.
Right.
Right? You got to be able to write, but you also have to be able to be on stage and deliver.
Correct.
And that's a performance. That's the art to it,
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you before you just funny. I was going to ask you before you took your class.
Yeah.
What were you doing before then?
Like what was I doing for a living?
Yes.
Yeah, I was in the sports industry, so I was coaching and working with kids and things like that, and I still did that after. So the comedy never became a full-time career for me.
Okay.
Still isn't. I mean, I got a 9 to 5. We opened this place, but I got a 9 to 5. Well, I guess 8 to 5 these days, right? So yeah, it's always been a side gig, but I mean, for 5-6 years, from the time I was 31, 32 till about 37, I was performing. You know, I was a paid performer every weekend in Deep Ellum, Dallas, Texas for 3 shows a weekend, just every single weekend, while doing youth volleyball tournaments on the side. And, you know, like, I mean, I was a single guy, and I was staying up late and waking up early and then sleeping in the afternoons and
living it up.
Yeah. I mean, it was a hard thing to do to keep that schedule going, but I loved it so much it didn't matter. I would do whatever to get on stage and perform with my friends and make people laugh. So, I mean, over those 7 years, and you know, including private shows, and now up until now, here, you know, 18 years later, I mean, I've probably done over 1,000 shows. So
that's wonderful.
It's cool. It takes time.
It does take time. I want to ask you, how did when you did your first act, how'd it go?
Yeah, I went good. My first level 1 showcase, we took the class. It's called a level 1 class. You do a showcase at the end of it. And instantly, I was in one of the better amateur troupes. They asked me to join their troupe. We started doing shows, and then within a year, they had moved me into the main. I was getting paid. I think part of it is I've never had stage fright. My dad's a pastor. My mom's a school teacher. Having stage fright's not in my blood. Like, I just don't have that kind of jitters of being in front of people. I've been in front of people, seen my parents in front of people my whole life. So there's something about that confidence that translated, you know. And also, I had done Toastmasters and public speaking and all that before I got into comedy. Right. So having that natural stage presence helped me a lot. Covered a lot of unfunny moments. Right. So yeah, the first show went well. It wasn't like, I mean, if anything, you can make the case I plateaued and haven't gotten any better. But I started strong. Right. So
it's always good to start strong.
Yeah, I started strong. Now, whether or not I got any better remains to be seen. But I definitely started strong. So
that's good, man. I wanted to ask you, how do you work the crowd?
Well, I mean, every crowd's different, right? The sizes, the crowd mentality. You know, if you go to a crowd in New York or Chicago, it's going to be very different than a crowd in East Texas. Right. Very, very different. And, you know, you gotta kind of feel them out. You can feel them out by their laughter. You can feel them out by their energy. You can feel them out, you know. There's a lot of different ways to work a crowd, but if the crowd's not into it, they're just not into it. I mean, that's you can't force them. You can't force somebody to laugh. You got to hope to find that sweet spot and make them laugh. And then once you get them, you know, there's only so much you can tweak. Right. But you know, at the end of the day, if you're funny, you're funny.
Right. So you're saying, so it would probably be based off of what would be the first joke you would say to kind of like see where the crowd's at.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of different theories on that. I know a lot of stand-ups. They're like, well, I want to tell something dirty right off the bat. I was like, whoa, that's bold. Just to see if they're into it. Like, you risk losing them. That's a very risky proposition. A lot of comics will say, no, I'm going to ease them into it by telling jokes that are self-deprecating, so they can kind of get to know me a little bit and get them on my side, and then I'll see what their limits are. And then there's some comics like, hey, these are my jokes, like them or don't like them. I'm not worried about you. And with improv, I think more often than not, we're just trying to make each other laugh. And I think the vibe, that's one of the biggest differences between improv and stand-up is with stand-up, you're performing for the audience. With improv, you're hanging out with comedians. Like, we're just being funny, and you're here to hang out with us. And it's a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more participatory, and you know, has its own benefits. They both have their own benefits. So. Right.
I wanted to ask you, what's the best way to practice your jokes?
Well, if you're stand-up, perform. Go to every open mic, record every set you do, watch yourself back. That's by far. And I haven't been doing stand-up for maybe like 4 months. Like, I scared me to death, so I stayed away from it. When I opened this place, I was like, okay, I better start learning some stand-up. Right. So the best way to do stand-up is just repetition. Tell your jokes over and over and over again. Find out what word choices make sense. Putting this word in front of this word. Record yourself. Listen back to where you got the laughs. With improv, keep yourself around funny people. Right. There's no way to practice. be around funny people and you get better. You know, push each other, have fun with each other, and that's probably the best advice I could give on that front. So.
Right on. Oh, you got anything?
Oh, no.
Oh, the guy is here.
Yeah, we're all just hanging out.
Oh, no, you're fine, man.
You're bothering me a little bit.
Oh, that's good, man. I got me nervous. I wanted to ask you, how does one get over stage fright?
Oof. Some people don't.
Just never do.
Some people don't. The only thing I can say is, I mean, like, I don't like to fly, and I'm completely rational about it. I know the mechanics. I know the physics. I know that it's not going to fall out of the sky. It doesn't matter. My brain still freaks out. And so people, you can tell them whatever. You can say, hey, those people are just like you. They're not judging you. They're rooting for you. They're here for you. But if you're going to get over it, probably the only way to do it is to do it. It's a kind of immersion therapy, right? If you want to get over being afraid of spiders, go, find somebody who has a pet tarantula and hold it and see what happens. No, you guys disagree.
I'm terrified of spiders.
Oh, no.
But if you want to get over it.
I just stay away from them.
Okay.
Right on. I want to ask you, how has comedy changed over the years?
That's a great question. Improv's changed over the years in a little bit. Depends on where you go. If you're in a major metropolitan area, improv's changed because it's become a little bit more sensitive. Improv, if you go back 20, 30 years, there's a lot more stereotypes. There's a lot more kind of, we're not going to be as, like the idea of offending someone through improv was kind of foreign 30 or 40 years ago to certain people. And now it's become very much more conscious about punching down or whatever. So I think that's changed a little bit. And then whether or not that's better or worse is up for somebody else to decide. To me, if it's funny, it's funny. I don't care what you say.
Right.
If you're trying to make a joke, it's fine. You can make fun of me, make fun of my beliefs, make fun of the guy sitting next to you. There's no limits for me as long as you're trying to be funny and not trying to be mean. You're trying to be good natured. I think all good comedy is going to offend somebody. Right. My grandmother's probably at the top of the list. Like, I don't know if there's a joke that she wouldn't find at least somewhat off-putting. But all good comedy, I think, bothers somebody. Right. That's kind of the point. The point is for comedians, like I said before, we're the court jesters. We're slaying the dragon by talking about how stupid it is. We're the ones pointing out that the emperor doesn't have new clothes on. We're the ones that are taking those taboo subjects and defanging them. And when you lose that, when you start robbing the comedians of the ability to kill the dragon, right? God help you.
I was wondering about that. Does it put a big hold on your creativity though? Especially with the way the world is now.
Yeah, only if you let it. I mean, there's so many comedians that are just daring people to cancel them. Right. Like, go ahead, try cancel me. I don't care. Right. And I think some of those are doing better than. I mean, Louis C.K.'s back selling out theaters. Like good comedians, talented people, they get. And that's not unique to comedians. Good actors, good musicians, it's whatever. If you're talented, then people want to be entertained. So
I understand. I wanted to ask you, okay, got that one. What's the biggest stage you ever been on, and then what was the preparation leading up to it?
So the biggest stage I've ever been on, we did a show for 5,000 people. I've done it twice for about that number. I don't know what the exact numbers were. They were both corporate private shows. One of them was for PMMG, which one was it? The one we used to do at Athens all the time? Yeah. The one that Phil Mickelson sponsored by? I think it's PNMG. I don't know. Anyway, we did that one, and it was they were recruiting engineers for their firm or whatever. So we went down, I think it was College Station, did a show for 5,000 people. And we didn't really prepare. I mean, we were just kind of, you don't really prepare too much for improv. Okay. And that one was fine, right? Okay. But then we did one for a company that was in East Texas. I don't remember what it was called. They made trailers, like, that you pull behind a truck, And it was their Christmas party. Oh. And everybody had to come to get their Christmas bonus. Dang. And they got bonuses. Some of them got presents. And 10% of the company were, and I'm just going to say it like it is, 10% of their company were middle-aged white executives who hired us. And 80% of their company were first-generation Americans from Mexico who didn't speak any English. Oh, so we're doing a show for 4,000 people that have no idea what we're talking about. and so I started, I grabbed the microphone and went out into the audience and started doing crowd work with everybody that I knew couldn't. I was asking them questions, and they were like, "Oh, no." I was like, "All right." And I'm just going, like, at some point you just throw in the towel, like, we're just going to have fun with this. Right. And so, yeah, we didn't know that going in. what happened.
Did that before you know
And
the audience.
These tables over here were dying laughing, but it was crickets from the rest of the theater. But hey, we got paid. So.
Remember that circus show we did?
Oh yeah, we did do it. That wasn't a big stage, but that was the weirdest show I've ever done. There's a company out in Ben Wheeler that makes parts for automatic doors at grocery stores, and like they're one of the biggest part makers for automatic doors in the country. Yeah. And so every 2 years they have a huge party where they rent out like this wedding venue and bring in all of their major clients, and they celebrate them. They thank you so much for being a client. So we got this private show gig to do that. We didn't know. So Brad and I, we're going out there and we walk in and they're setting up, and I'm like, is that a guy doing card tricks in the parking lot? A guy doing card tricks in the parking lot. I was like, okay, that's weird. We walk in. And they had turned this wedding venue into like a circus theme. So these streamers were all pinned in the center, so it had this big top feel. The stage was set up. We look over, and to one side of the stage was a woman setting up this giant metal contraption. And on the other side of the stage was this 24-year-old girl doing contortionist routines and acrobatics. And in front of us was a woman in a metal buttress with champagne glasses on the metal buttress. So that as you came in, you would take a champagne glass off of her dress, basically. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, the guy outside's a magician. And then, by the time the place started filling in, it was like there was a lady with a monkey walking around, letting the monkey climb on people. I was like, oh my God. Like, this is the wildest scene. I was like, I've never been to an Eyes Wide Shut party before. I didn't know what I was going to have to do. Right. I was like, we might have to, put our keys in a fishbowl before this is all over with. These people are they're going to sell our organs. Like, this is this is a movie.
And the crowd was.
Yeah, and the crowd was into it. So yeah, but that was a wild scene. It was fun, but it was a wild scene. So I gave them my resume. Hopefully they'll get back to me.
I hope they get back to you too, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when did you decide to open up this comedy spot?
When I moved here to Tyler 5 years ago, the idea was to open up a comedy spot because Tyler didn't have one really. And it just took forever to find the right spot, the right financials, and still, we're still struggling a little bit. Like, we're still trying to get the word out, and it was a risk, but it took 4.5 years to get it to come to fruition. Deal after deal after deal fell through. It was one of those things where it's like, yeah, I owned my own company for so long. And now, because I came out here, because I met the girl of my dreams and came out here and got married, I had to get a regular job. But it doesn't mean I don't want to have a business too.
Right.
And so it was like, this is something I miss. We were performing once every 6 weeks at best. And it's like, nah, I miss performing every weekend. I miss having the opportunity to perform every weekend. I miss having a green room with my buddies and having a place where we can go, oh, what if we did this? And we could do it and not have to ask anybody's permission.
Right.
Like, I wanted to have a place where we could foster the community of comedy and stand-ups and entertainment. I mean, we've got a jam session comes up here every third Thursday and does swing music and funk music. And, I want this to be a stage for Tyler. I want it to be a place where people can come and have something to do.
That's dope. I want to ask you, who came up with the name The Understudy?
That was me.
Reason behind it?
There's 3 reasons. One, I wanted something that was entertainment industry related. Mm-hmm. So like an understudy is, the person who waits in the wings in case the lead character gets sick, the understudy steps in and does right. So it has a nod to the theater side of things. 2, I didn't want it to be some cheesy comedy like, Tyler Chuckle Hut or, something stupid.
I understand.
Somebody
might use that, man.
Huh?
Somebody might use that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm not worried. And then 3rd, I've always felt like the backup player. Like, that's just kind of like my handle on a bunch of video games and stuff is backup hero. And I've always identified with Robin instead of Batman. Like, I'm always the guy waiting to take over.
Right.
And it's always motivated me. Like, I've always rooted for I don't like Nike. I like, Reebok, Under Armour, and these are New Balances, I think. But anyway, there's something about being the lead dog that's boring to me.
Right, I understand.
Right, except going back to when I was Superman. That was when I was young. But anyway, I digress. The understudy kind of fit that mold. It kind of was more me.
I understand.
So yeah, that's where we came up with it.
I'm excited. I wanted to ask you. Well, at that point, let's see here. We got this location. Well, what has your experience been since you opened up?
Good. The people that come love it. My experience is Tyler doesn't know about new things very quickly. Like, we can't. It's hard for us to get the word out. But we started with pretty 20, 30 person crowds, and 200 people on Facebook. Now we've got almost 2,000 people on Facebook, and we're still at 20 or 30 person crowds.
Right.
The summers are usually slow, though. I'm expecting the fall to pick back up. But my experience has been almost exactly what I wanted. There's been hiccups. Nothing ever goes like you want it. Nothing ever was really planned.
Right.
But when I am in the green, I'll get frustrated. We got 10 tickets sold. I'm frustrated. I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm about to sell my house. And then
hopefully not, man.
And then the show starts.
Right.
And then people laugh. And new comedians get on stage, and young comedians are trying it out. And I see a girl come in who's shy, and she gets on stage and gets laughs, and she just glows. Or, yeah, and I get those moments that I was talking about earlier, where we get to hang out in the green room, and it's like, oh yeah, that's what I get to look on stage and look out into the lobby and see my wife laughing, and I get to wink at her from the stage, and she got up and did a little bit last time we did a show, and it was hilarious. And I got to do that, like those things,
Right.
And for my stepkids to be like, oh my God, I'm just like, oh my God, you had 40 tickets. I'm so proud of you.
Right.
It's like those moments have been great. Were they worth $50,000? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. That's a lot of money. So we'll see.
But eventually, we're going to get to a point to where it all makes sense.
Yeah, I hope so.
We're going to ask you how you deal with doubt, but you already answered it. It's just the little things and you enjoy.
Yeah. You just got to focus on the positive. I would rather this place fail than to have never tried.
Right. I feel the same way.
So
I want to ask you: is this what you dreamed it would be?
It's pretty close. I mean, like I said, when I dreamed it, things happen.
Mm-hmm.
People move. Some of your best comics aren't able to come as often as you wish they would.
Right.
Sometimes the people that you wanted to take advantage of the space don't. Sometimes Tyler doesn't take to it the way I thought Tyler would, right? But all in all, no, it didn't go perfect the way I wanted to. But if you're looking at the broad picture, then yeah, this is kind of what I wanted. It's going the way we want it. It looks like I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. I give my wife all the credit for the aesthetic. I think we got a great product. I give credit to all my guys for that. Last night we had a great open mic show. I'm proud of what we do, right. And so that's the main thing. So.
That's good, man. I want to ask you, how do you keep a work-life balance?
Oh, I don't. I don't keep a work-life balance. No, I don't at all. I just stay at home and don't work. I'm just kidding. If I had a worse work-life balance, this place would be doing better. I have a problem. I have a problem saying, hey, I'm going to wait. I'm going to take my Saturday where I know I have to be up there and perform at night. I want to take my Saturday afternoon and leave my family and go up there and work on the club, or go stand on the corner with a sign, or hand out flyers, or call somebody and try and get some. Like I have a real problem with that, because I'd rather be hanging out with them. So
right.
I think I'm right there. I think if I were able to let go of that, this place might be doing a little bit better, but it wouldn't be worth it. So I've always been pretty good with work-life balance. But right now, my job's stressing me out pretty hard, in a good way. And so I'm spending a lot of time at the office. And so I try to take extra care to spend more time at home on the weekends if I can.
That's good, man. I'm happy for you. I want to ask you, what's your plan for the next 5 years?
Oh, God.
Don't die.
Yeah, that was going to be number one, is like, don't have a heart attack and basically outlive my wife. If my goal for the next 5 years is outlive my wife. I definitely want her to go first. I want to make that very clear. I don't want her to have to live through missing me, is basically the point I'm trying to make. I think now I hope we both live to be 100.
Right on.
Right, but for the next 5 years, that's my goal. Just make sure I don't die early. I'm gonna outlive her.
I got this question to ask you, and I thought I was going to ask, but I have a question.
Yeah.
When are you going to shave the rest of your hair off?
Oh no, that's a good question. So this is about 2 weeks worth of growth. So in another 2 weeks, I'll shave it back down, and then I'll just let it. You're catching me in various stages. But am I ever going to go razor blade bald? No.
Like Mr. Clean.
Yeah, I don't have a nice head. My head's full of like bumps and scars. It's pretty bad. Yeah.
That's gross.
It's pretty bad.
He's been a bang one on your ass.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not good. Yeah, I got a couple. Yeah.
Dang.
I heard the first time. God is merciful. That's why you have hair right here. It looks like a Louisiana map.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, he's not wrong. Yeah, that's why he wears a mustache.
Oh. You did?
Because I'm king.
Well, man, thank you so much for for doing this podcast, man.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Anytime.
No problem.
Understudy.com. I don't know if that's right. Maybe theunderstudy.com.
Tyler.
Theunderstudytyler.com. Thank you, Brad. Also on Facebook. See what I'm talking about? If I worked harder, you'd know about it. Cut. All right, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.